Hi everybody, welcome back, hope you're doing well. So I'm going to be reviewing today the Revolution Reloaded Hypnotic palette. Now I recently put up a Wet n Wild My Glamour Squad palette review, and I bought that because I was really interested in buying ABH Soft Glam. And I've also had my eye on ABH Sultry as well, but you can't get Sultry, it was a limited edition palette. I do think sometimes though the ABH website does randomly release some stock of Sultry, but it is a limited edition palette, so you can't just go onto their website or any website and go and buy it. So like I did when I was trying to find a dupe for ABH Soft Glam, I did the same thing with Sultry, and I came across the Revolution Reloaded Hypnotic palette, which is this palette here, so you can kind of see straight away that they are very similar. This is actually my second palette of this. I ordered it from the Revolution website and it turned up absolutely smashed to pieces. I think there were probably only about sort of 3 pans that were completely intact still. The rest was just crumbled up into powder. I'll see if I can put a picture of it on the screen. So I got in contact with Revolution, sent them the pictures, and they sent me this one as a replacement, and thankfully it does all sort of seem to be intact. So I'm going to compare this palette to ABH Sultry, and then I'm also going to try this one as well, which is why I don't have any eye makeup on, and see what kind of look I can create with these shades. So let's start off with price then. So ABH Sultry is £46 if you are able to get your hands on it. This one here, the Reloaded Hypnotic palette, is £5. I managed to get it for 10% off, so it was actually down to £4.50. So that makes it about a ninth of the cost of the ABH Sultry palette, so an absolute bargain. In terms of the packaging, it does have a plastic outer case, so you can see all the shades within, you can see all the individual palettes, and then you open it up and then you have your 15 pans here. You have 3 rows of 5 pans, and they are fairly decent sized pans as well. So this is Norvina. So Sultry looks very, very similar to this. I think it's like a glittery rose gold outer casing. I don't think it's a velvet touch like this, but please let me know if I'm wrong because I've never touched Sultry. I don't know what it feels like. And then when you open it out, it's very similar to this. So you have a space here for your brush, and you've got 14 shades, 2 rows of 7. So just to compare the size of the pans, so you can see that the Revolution pans are a lot bigger than ABH Sultry, or in this case, Norvina. So in Sultry you would have 14 pans, and in Revolution Reloaded Hypnotic you would have 15 pans, so you do have 1 additional pan in the Revolution palette. The Sultry palette would come with a mirror, but you don't have a mirror in the Revolution one here, so if you're going to go travelling with it, just make sure that you've got a mirror with you. Another thing to note with the packaging as well, I feel like this could be quite flimsy and could break fairly easily. Now you are spending a £5 on a palette, so you're not going to get the best in terms of quality. Yes, it would be annoying if this does break and does fall off, but I am kind of expecting it to not be the most durable of my palettes. Whereas with Sultry or any of the ABH palettes like this, they are sort of like magnetic like that, and they feel a little bit more sturdy as well, and I like that you can open them out, flip them over, mirror one side, palette the other side, so that makes for a really easy sort of application. Now when I did my Wet n Wild video, I was able to find online pictures of swatches of the Wet n Wild shades compared to the Soft Glam shades. I've had a look online for this one in comparison to the Sultry palette, and I can't seem to find any pictures that compare each individual shade with each other. But I do have a picture here on my phone of some swatches of ABH Sultry, and looking at this palette here, it does seem like most of them are duped, apart from Slate, which seems to be like a gunmetal grey, a matte shade. I don't think we have that in this palette here, but you've got that pink there, which is that kind of standout shade from Sultry. You've got a base, you've got black, you've got some of the browns, you've got some of the glittery browns and taupes in there as well. So you should be able to hopefully dupe most of the shades within Sultry. I did also see online that this could potentially be a dupe for the Urban Decay Naked Reloaded palette. However, I did read a few blog posts about the comparisons, and it does seem that this is more of a dupe for Sultry than the Urban Decay palette. But there were some similar shades between this palette and the Urban Decay Naked Reloaded palette. And interesting that this one is called Reloaded Hypnotic, so I'm not sure whether this was intended to be a dupe for the Urban Decay one or the Sultry one, but it does seem like this is more of a dupe for Sultry than Urban Decay. So I'm going to put a picture up of Sultry here. Now when you first look at ABH Sultry you think this is a cool tone palette because it has those silvers, those greys within it, but there only seems to be sort of a couple of real true cool tone shades within Sultry, but it is a sort of neutrally warm palette, and it's a similar thing with this. So you have some of your cool tones which are like this one here, possibly this one, and then the rest are warm. So although I do try not to go for more cool tone shades, I try to go for warmer shades that kind of suit my complexion. This palette overall, despite having a couple of cool tones in, is mostly warm. So it's nice that I've got a couple of cool tones in there if I want to go a little bit more cool with my eyeshadow look, but the fact that it is mostly warm should hopefully mean that it suits my complexion and I can get some nice wearable shades and looks out of the palette. And I like with this palette as well that you can go in lots of different directions with it. So you can go for a real basic everyday neutral warm eyeshadow look. You can darken it up with the black in there to create a really nice smoky look. You've got some greys and silvers in there as well, so nice for the winter time, for sort of a Christmas look. But then you've got that kind of peachy pink there as well, and you've got a shimmery pink here and then another glittery rose pink there as well. So lots of different avenues you can go down with this palette. So I'm really excited to play with this and see what kind of looks I can create. So I think I'm going to do that now. I'm going to zoom you in and then see what kind of eyeshadow look I can create with this palette. Alright, we're all zoomed in, let's get started. So I'm going to start off with an eyeshadow primer like I always do. Okay, so to match the rest of my makeup and also the colour of the clothes and jewellery I've got on today, I think I'm going to try and go for like a pinky toned look. So with this shade here, this one. So to start off with, I'm going to take a crease shade, and I've got a Zoeva 228 crease brush, and I think the crease shade I want is this one here. So just tapping my brush into it, you get a bit of kickback, but nothing like the extent of the ABH palettes. Now, when I did my Wet n Wild video, I really liked the look I made, but it wasn't until I had finished filming and checked out the look in the mirror that I hadn't kept my eyes open enough, or my eyes looking straight forward when I applied the eyeshadow, because you couldn't really see the colours. It wasn't until I blinked or like tried to move my face like that you could see the shimmers. So I'm going to try to keep my eyes as relaxed as possible, looking straight forward, and apply the shadows like that, and that's just because I've got hooded eyes. So just running some of this into the crease. It's a nice matte colour, a light soft brown, fairly warm in tone. Doesn't seem to be like any fallout on my face. My face looks so shiny. And I'm just putting that above the crease. Let's try and take down some of that shine a little bit. Now, Revolution eyeshadows can be real hit and miss. You can get some really good palettes or some not so good palettes. So it's a little bit of a lottery sometimes with what type of quality you're going to get from Revolution. But this shade, this matte transition brown shade, so far, it's good. Okay, let's try that pink shade, that corally pink shade next in the crease. That's also a warm tone shade as well. So this palette isn't as cool toned as you might expect from sort of like first glance at it. Okay, let's try a shimmer next. I'm going to go for this pinky shade here. I haven't set the primer on my lids, so hopefully this will provide a bit of a tacky base for it to stick to. And I'm going to try first with my finger and see how this applies. Needs a bit of building up, but that is a really pretty shade. I do have a glitter primer as well, so maybe applying it over the top of that would provide a bit more of a tacky base compared to just a standard eyeshadow primer. Opening my eyes to make sure that I can see some of that glitter. I think I need to put a little bit of that more higher up. I'm intrigued to see what it's like with a brush. So this is a Spectrum A07 brush. Just packing that onto the lid. You know what, I think a wash all over the lids with just this shimmer shade would be so pretty. also applies really nicely with a brush, so fingers or brush, depends what your preference is, either's good. I do have a little bit of fallout down here, but actually I don't mind it because I've got a bit of a pinky cheek going on. It's just looking a little bit like highlighter, so I'm okay with that. Okay, in my inner corners and inner part of the eyelid, I'm going to go for this shimmer one here. Okay, that one's not that pigmented. No, the shimmers in the ABH palettes, now I can't obviously speak for Sultry, but from Modern Renaissance and Norvina that I have, they are very pigmented. Especially in Norvina, they're really soft in Norvina as well. And these ones don't seem to be quite as pigmented, but if you build them up, I mean that's a few coats already, that seems to be better. Pretty shades, very, very pretty shades, but from how they compare to my two ABH palettes, so Modern Renaissance and Norvina, I do think the ABH ones are performing better than this. These aren't that pigmented, so you do have to build up the pigmentation a bit more. The mattes were fine, but the shimmers not as good as ABH shimmers, but pretty so far. I do like the colours, I do quite like how this look is coming on. I want to darken up this outer corner a bit, and I think I'm gonna go for this dark brown here, but I don't want it to become a real brown look, so I'm just only gonna put on a little bit. That is turning a little bit purpley, a little bit mauvey on the eyes, which is nice because I didn't want it to detract from the pinkiness of the rest of the eyes and become brown. I'm trying to not do a brown look today, stepping out of my comfort zone and trying something that isn't a neutral warm brown. This brown shade isn't that pigmented, but to be honest, I quite like that because I only want a little bit of it. I like that you can build this one up, so I like that it's not bam, a load of like dark brown pigment on your eyes. It's a lot softer. Just going to run a little bit of that under the lower lash line. So for a little bit of cleanup, I'm going to go for that matte ivory shade there and just run some of that like round the edges and under the brow bone. Right, I'm going to finish up with a bit of eyeliner and mascara and I'll be right back. So I've put on a bit of brown liquid eyeliner, brown mascara, and I've tight lined with a brown pencil eyeliner as well. So this is the final eyeshadow look. So please let me know what you think in the comments down below. Not a professional makeup artist, just want to add that. So I know my technique and my application probably isn't the best, but please let me know what you think of the palette and the colours. And then this is what it looks like from further away. So like I say, please let me know what you think down below. Overall then, I think that the palette for £4.50 is an absolute bargain. 15 shadows, you get a great amount of shadows in the palette. Good mixture of some mattes and some shimmers and a wide variety of different colours, so there's loads of different looks that you can create. I obviously went for more of like a pinky look today, so I really like this. I think this is very pretty, very girly, very wearable, a nice everyday kind of makeup look. But I'm interested to try some of the other shades as well, so a bit more of a smoky look, some of those grey silver ones as well, and then obviously of course I like myself a very neutral, natural, everyday brown look, so I want to try that with that palette as well. In terms of quality, so if Sultry is anything like Modern Renaissance and Norvina, I do think that Sultry would perform better than the Revolution palette. I think the mattes were absolutely fine. They were very easy to blend, very easy to build up the pigmentation. But the shimmers needed a little bit more work. They needed a few more extra layers, and I do have a little bit of fallout underneath my eyes, but I don't really mind because I feel like it's a little bit of like a highlighter effect. It's not immediately under the eyes, it's a little bit lower down on my cheeks, so I don't feel like it's hugely obvious. And the shimmers do need that sticky tacky base as well, so I didn't set the eyeshadow primer, but I do also want to try those shimmers with a glitter primer. I have the NYX glitter primer. So although I think Sultry would perform better than the Revolution palette, I am glad that I bought it because I now have that dupe for Sultry within my collection. And like I say, £4.50 for 15 shades I think is an absolutely fantastic deal. And they do perform well, but you just have to work with them a little bit more than you would do ABH. So if you are unable to get your hands on Sultry and you are after a dupe, I would recommend the Revolution palette. And Revolution quite often do deals as well, so I think when I bought this there was a 3 for 2 offer going on at the same time, but this was the only thing I wanted, so I only picked up this. But yeah, they do quite often do some deals, so keep your eyes out if you do want to. Keep your eyes out, keep your eyes peeled for any deals if you did want to pick this up. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please also subscribe if you haven't as well. I would love to have you here as part of my community on my channel. Have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you again very soon for my next video.